Hello, welcome back to the James Ramblin' Reviews. Hello, welcome back to James Ramblin' Reviews for yet another episode. Today's episode, you might be wondering yourself, why did you sound like a robot moving your hands all around the screen? Well, that's because today's video I'm going to be talking about the Wild Robot, which I actually saw last Sunday, so about 3 or 4 days ago, exactly 4 days ago actually. And so yeah, I've had that time to process the film, but I have been reviewing a few other movies in between all of that, so that is why this is coming out a bit later than, a refreshing kind of mindset where I'm like, you know what, I just saw the movie a day ago, I remember everything, but I still remember bits about this film, so don't worry about that, right? Because, sometimes I'll have those points where I seen a movie 2 days ago and I forgot everything about it. But outside of that, right, I'll just give you a bit of context here, because The Wild Robot is actually the most recent, Dreamworks production, and so for me personally, I absolutely love Dreamworks. I am somebody that grew up with the Shrek franchise. I mean, the other year there, you had Puss in Boots 2, The Last Wish, where it just came out of nowhere, made by Dreamworks. It was an awesome story, the animation was great, everything was just flawless about that movie. So there's definitely that where I've had that preconceived notion of, I really like the Dreamworks movies, and so going into this kind of the Wild Robot kind of movie, I didn't know what I was getting myself into, because I only saw one shot of the trailer, and then when I go and see the film, right, I'm not going to spoil what this movie is about, but what I will say though, just vaguely, is that what you kind of have here is this kind of coming of age story about this mother and kind of her family, and that progression and how that progression builds and how everything pays off and how everything starts to make sense and why they feel so sad or they feel so happy together. And that is spoiling some sections of the movie, but we won't be going into too much spoilers because this is a very fresh new movie, and I'm going to say this right now, that Dreamworks have came back and cooked a masterpiece with this movie. Because let me tell you this, right, you can say this right now, oh, Dreamworks has already done movies where they appeal to kids and adults, but the way that this movie plays everything out, the way this movie does everything, it's like you just can't complain about what's going on, because it's a slow burn film. Even though it's an hour and 40 minutes and it felt like it just flew by, right? It's 10 minutes shorter than My Hero Academia You're Next, and it actually has way more better pacing. And also you've got to talk about the animation here, because this is an animated film we're talking about, right? And wow, when you go and see this on the big screen, I'm just like, wow, I am watching pure cinema right now, and this is actually cinema, because the way it's shot is so pretty. You could tell that they actually put a lot of time and effort into the animation. It's not like the animation looks really bad, it looks very pretty. You've got there's really bright shots in the camera, and then there'll be points where it's very, very dark and it's detailed, and you can see there's lights, around the robot and stuff like that. That was really, really cool. And also, the voice acting in this movie is actually pretty nice. The voices are quite endearing and quite fun, because the main character, you kind of get invested in how she speaks and why she sounds the way she does, and then you get invested in how her little son, her little gosling, as it's mentioned in the film, what they are going through, what he's going through, and then you get to see how she does all of that. So there is all of that. And there's very cool, heartwarming music in this movie, and there was a lot of kids in my screen, and to be expected, it is a kids movie. But there was a few times where I was on the edge of my seat, ready to cry, because it was so emotional and you could feel the emotions rising up. So this will be a bit of a shorter review, because I don't know how else I'm going to word this other than saying, the animation is amazing, everything about this movie is pretty much amazing. I don't even think there was a moment in this movie where I was complaining, I was bored, because let me tell you this, right, before we end the video here, I actually did this in the cinema where I was just sitting here like this. And I was just clapping as the credits were rolling. I was clapping. And let me tell you this as a fun fact. I was the only person in my cinema where I just stayed for the post-credit scene. Sure, it was a slight little thing that happened to pay off, to add to what was already amazing about the film. But my goodness, I absolutely just stayed to the end, and then I walked out and, went home, got the bus and stuff like that. And so, yeah, that is my review of The Wild Robot. Like, I actually think that like a 9 out of 10 is playing it safe with this movie. It is another Transformers 1 situation. I would compare it to Transformers 1 and Inside Out 2, where you just have this year where you have these really, really good, epic, awesome animated films that they didn't need to be this good, but they just are, because the way it's executed and the way it's handled is just perfect. So yeah, that is my review of The Wild Robot. Stay tuned for more reviews on the channel, because I'm cooking up some other videos, because as this is going out, I'm thinking maybe like Black Ops 6 is definitely on my mind, and there's a new Like a Dragon Yakuza series that came out today that I watched the first episode of, so there's a lot that I can really process in my mind about what I want to review. So yeah, I will see you later, and try not to become a crazy wild robot. Bye.